Welcome to the Board Game Marketing Podcast. Let's cue the intro. This is the #1 podcast to learn marketing strategies for your board game. Whether you're just starting on your first game or an experienced designer, you've come to the right place. My name is Nalin, and let's talk marketing for your game. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Board Game Marketing Podcast. In this podcast, I interview creators who have successfully funded their ideas on Kickstarter to learn more about their journey to launch and help you formulate your own plan. I also bring on experts in the tabletop space to talk about all the facets of marketing and building your game publishing company. If you've been listening for a while now, you know that I hold nothing back. So in these episodes, be prepared to hear me ask the hard questions and really get down to the finer details. Let's get started. About all things IGA. I know a lot of people have questions about IGA. So this is your chance to, join in, ask questions, and just hear about IGA. So without further ado, Matt, I'd love you to tell us about yourself and about IGA.
Sure. So I've been involved in the tabletop community for probably about 8-10 years now, ever since I went to Full Sail for, ironically, video game design. And one of my instructors there was Dave Arneson, the co-creator of Dungeons & Dragons. And he pulled us out of the video game world for a second and basically said, here is, how to make games that are fun, and forget about code for a minute. Let's talk about tabletop games. And that was sort of my introduction to tabletop games outside of Monopoly and stuff. And since then, I've been involved in, I did some demoing for Steve Jackson games and a few other organizations. And eventually I sort of stumbled on the idea of IGA. And so what we are here to do is to try and provide as many services as we can. We like to think of ourselves, we're a guild. And so it's different than being a service company and everything else, in the sense that the idea is that everybody in our community is sort of pitching in to make everybody else more successful. This isn't just us pushing our creators forward, our members. It's about all of us working together as a team to be greater than the sum of our parts. And so over time, we started off having just our shared demo volunteers, and then over time, we've started to add additional services to try to help folks out as we've learned more about the industry and been able to build stuff up. So we started doing playtesting. We've started doing discounts and so forth to help people out. Started doing selling at conventions, getting into distribution, things like that. Basically, our goal is to try to make every aspect of making a game and marketing that game and sort of taking your fantastic prototype into a successful Kickstarter and a business as simple and as painless as possible for people.
So it seems like you do a lot at IGA.
A little bit. It gets a little busy here, but
board, right? When is the best time for people to start engaging with IGA?
There's no time too early. The smallest of our members are people that are testing their first prototype on index cards, and then our membership goes all the way up to people the size of Greater Than Games and Ravensburger and everything in between. We have plans that are designed to help people that are designing who maybe aren't even necessarily sure if they want to take the game to Kickstarter themselves or go find a publisher to help them do that. So we can help kind of with that design process. We do consultations to sit and we'll help people work through game design questions and balance issues. We can help with playtesting, prototyping, everything else. And then when a designer is ready to decide, like, do I want to take the plunge and become a publisher and go to Kickstarter, then we can help them sort of with all of that learning curve and all the various extra steps they have to do that people don't think of. And they're like, I designed a game. Now what? And then for people who are trying to go the publisher route, we work with our network of publishers to try to help folks, get a good sell sheet together, get that in front of publishers. We run publisher speed dating events at most conventions, which, knock on wood, hopefully we're going to have conventions again next year. Just to try to get that done, to try to get some of these games out. And then, of course, when the publisher picks the game up, then all the things we would have done to help the designer who was self-publishing will do to help the publisher get that game up on Kickstarter and be successful as well.
Got it. So from a game designer perspective, right? You said you work with people in like even early prototypes. What does that look like? Do they kind of sign up with you guys and then you start meeting with them on one-on-one? Do they get paired with people? What's the process actually like?
So we kind of tailor that to the individual needs of the member. Some people come to us in a state where they say, I have a game and it's play tested and the art is done and I just want to get a final check on it. And we'll go through, we'll read the rule book, we'll do some play testing, let them know, if there's any issues we're having. Sometimes we'll do consultations to say I have this great design for a game, but I can't figure out a way to make it for less than $200. And I'll do materials analysis with them and say, here's how we can make this same game with $40 worth of components instead of $200 worth. I did a consultation a couple of weeks ago where one of our members basically said, I have this game and something about it just doesn't feel balanced. And I jumped on Tabletop Simulator with them and we did a consultation for an hour and a half and we solved a couple of issues, ended up retheming the game right there on the phone call. And then there's a lot of folks who are in a position, like I said, they're thinking about going to Kickstarter and they're just I'm just trying to get affordable prototypes, and we'll call in one of our partners to help out with that. So, our members can book a consultation with me anytime. And once they do, they get an hour and a half to ask me whatever they want. If it's help me balance the game, if it's help me make a solo mode, if it's, whatever it is. We have members who sign up and I get a call from them every 3 to 4 weeks like clockwork, and we just work through it step by step. I'm doing it for over a year now with some members.
Wow, that's really incredible. People seem to be staying with IGA for a really long time because, again, I guess their needs shift and change as the process kind of moves forward.
And that's the idea. We try to have it where, we help a game get from idea to prototype to Kickstarter to released to sold and making expansions. But then as that process happens, there's this sort of sense that, okay, well, the Kickstarter's over and we've ordered the game and now we're just waiting for it to show up from the factory. And so we don't need IGA anymore. But the reality is most of the time in that space there, people are working on designing an expansion for that game. They're working on their second game. They're working on trying to get that game localized and republished in Europe or in China or wherever they are. And those are all areas that we can help too. So, we try to be there for people in every step of the process and just try to make everything just 5 or 10% just less miserable in every step that we can.
That's a great thing to think about. 5 or 10% less miserable.
Yeah. The goal is just less miserable. We're sorry we couldn't fix 2020. We gave it our best shot.
We tried. So there's a lot of things that go into kind of working with IGA. Do people get direct access to you, or is it other people on your team too that kind of help make this happen? Can you talk us through that?
So the only actual staff members that IGA has are myself and my wife, Victoria. So I handle all of the software development because a good bit of what IGA does is automated through our website. So I handle that, and I do the one-on-one consultations for, like I said, all the various things that we talked about that I can do consultations on and more besides. Victoria normally handles the customer service things. I need help, using the website. I need help, I need one of my games shipped somewhere, that sort of stuff. She handles all of that. And then, of course, we have a team of over 1,000 volunteers that are active on all 7 continents, including Antarctica. that will go out and demo games, teach games, evangelize those games at game stores. Not sure there's a lot of game stores in Antarctica, but we do our best. There is some penguin that knows how to play zombie dice now.
Love it.
But so we do that. Our teams go to conventions all over the country, all over the world, and run demos. We do sales at as many conventions as we can. So, like, for example, somebody who's doing a Kickstarter next month, they might have a game available to sell that lands a week before Gen Con. Well, there's no way they're going to be able to get a booth at Gen Con to be able to do that. And even if they did, it wouldn't be financially reasonable for them to do so. So they can call us, and we'll take that game. We'll sell it for them. We make sure that they get their profits off of it. We can run demos on it, and they don't have to get off the couch. So it works out great for other people that are as indie as we are, that, they're school teachers and cops and every other profession under the sun, and they can't always just pick up and run to a convention all over the place. And even if they could, they can't necessarily be, so for example, the last weekend in May, Memorial Day weekend, we'll often have a convention going in Seattle with one of the PAX shows at the same time as, maybe with Dragon Con or some other show, all these different Dragon Con's Labor Day. I always mix those two up. But, there'll be 3 or 4 cons going at the same time, and a company of 1 or 2 people can't be in multiple places at once. But that's something that IGA can help with.
Yeah. So when people sign up, do they kind of immediately get matched up with someone who helps at convention, since you have a lot of volunteers doing that? Or is it kind of by choice?
Yeah, it's not so much a matching thing. Mm-hmm. So, let me be clear. These paths are a little different for somebody who's in the prototyping phase versus somebody who's in the published game phase. So most of what we would do involving demos, with the exception of playtesting, is done with published games that are already off Kickstarter, made, manufactured, ready for sale. And so the way that works, we have our volunteers, which, by the way, anybody is free to sign up as a volunteer. It's free and takes 5 minutes to do. The most complicated question on our join form is your address. And the way it works is our volunteers. So let's say you're one of our volunteers. Congratulations, welcome to the team.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what happens. When you sign up to be a volunteer, you can go on our website and put in your Board Game Geek user ID. And then what our website does is it scans your entire collection of what you have listed on Board Game Geek and matches it up against our members. And it'll say, here's the list of all the games you own right now today that are in our program. And, because of the number of companies we support, we're over 1,500 members, chances are you've got some stuff on basically, if you've ever backed a Kickstarter, you probably have at least some. So you can then go to any game store, your church, your local convention, your school, any public place, teach that game. And when you do, you fill out a form on our website that says, I was at Joe's Garage Games in Atlanta. I played Boss Monster for an hour. 4 people played it. 1 person bought it from the store as a result, and here's a picture. And when that happens, 2 things occur. First off, the publisher, Brotherwise Games, would get an email saying, check it out. Here's your game being demoed in Atlanta, which is pretty cool if you're in California and can't get out to Atlanta to run the demo in that store. The other thing that happens is for every 15 minutes of gameplay you do, you earn 1 what we call loot point. And then our volunteers can then spend those loot points on our website to buy games. So let's say, for example, we have a new publisher sign up. Let's say let's pick somebody. Let's say Cephalofair Games joins IGA tomorrow.
Okay, yeah.
If you're listening, we'll take your call.
Okay.
So let's say hypothetically that occurs. Well, they would probably want us to be out demoing Gloomhaven. So they would send us copies of Gloomhaven, which we would put in our warehouse. And then you, the volunteer, you get an email saying, hey, there's new games available on the website, and one of them happens to be Gloomhaven. You've earned up all these loot points from demoing Boss Monster and all this other stuff from companies who aren't Cephalofair. You spend those loot points and say, I'm interested in Gloomhaven. We ship it to you for free, and now that's your game that you own and can do whatever you like with, but chances are you're going to go demo that game too. So that is how games make it into the hands of our volunteers. It's entirely opt-in on the part of our volunteers, which works out great because it means that we're not sending out zillions of copies of games to people who might not particularly care for that kind of game. We have a lot of people that make things like historical war games. Not everybody's into those. So why would you want to spend money to send a historical war game to somebody that's like, I want to play Animal Upon Animal with my 6-year-old?
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. And it's like a win-win-win model too, right? The person who is going out to demo wins, IGA wins as a platform, and also the publisher too wins. And people, I guess 4 wins. People who are learning about the games also win.
Sure. And you actually have 2 publishers winning because the publisher who's getting the demo wins, and the publisher whose game is purchased with the loot points, who will then get the next round of demos, they also win.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest here. Like, that sounds like it was hard to conceptualize and dream up. How did you come up with this?
So we have a motto here at IGA that we break barriers. Sometimes we break them with our faces. A lot of information, a lot of things that we've done, we've tried something some way and it hasn't worked out. And we've come back to the drawing board and say, well, that didn't work. Let's evolve. Let's try again. We've done that with a lot of our services individually over the years. We'll be doing this 7 years in April. And so I'm in the process right now of rebuilding the entire IGA website and every service in it from the ground up. And we're going to relaunch the service at some point next year as IGA 3.0 with even more, where like every feature we do is like 15 to 20% better. And we have 8 new services that brand new to IGA that are coming out as part of that as well. So,
is it you and Victoria kind of working together to dream all these up, or how is it happening? Because this is like a large kind of project to bring in so many moving parts too.
It is. We support not only our volunteers and our member designers and publishers, but also our partners that offer our members discounts. Also, also a whole bunch of freelancers that do everything from rulebook editing to illustration to translations to voiceovers for Kickstarter videos. That we work with. We work with reviewers. We work with gaming groups. We work with retailers and distributors, convention organizers. We have all these moving parts. And what we are trying to do is sort of be a sort of a hub that the community can gather around. That where we make it a little easier, like I said, for everybody in the industry, whether you're in the industry as a publisher, as a convention organizer, or just as somebody who loves games and wants to, get out the good word about games. To make that just a little bit easier, a little bit more fun, a little bit more successful. Try to eliminate some of the mistakes that people make because it's their first time. So try to help out with that learning curve a little bit. A lot of the same stuff you do, actually. To try and just make this more of a welcoming and a more inclusive environment, a more an environment where people can feel like they're coming into it and be successful and not overwhelmed with all of this. I made a game. I didn't know I had to understand how duties work to get stuff imported from China and, all of this other stuff. So I'm rambling. I'll stop.
Well, and 5 to 10% less miserable.
Exactly. In some cases, significantly more than 5%. We aim for about 70% less miserable, and varying levels of success there.
Got it. Well, we were just talking about, I guess, demoing games at conventions. What is happening now with COVID and all these digital conventions?
Well, so IGA hasn't done an awful lot with the digital conventions, and there's a couple reasons why. When COVID first started to kill the conventions, around the time that Origins was originally delayed and so forth, I got the sense that we need a digital convention. We need to do something. And so IGA started we announced we were going to do a convention. We we intended to we called it Play Unconventionally, and we had this whole big plan for everything. And then what started to happen is everybody else sort of got the same idea. And Origins announced they were going to do their online convention. We all know what happened with that, but at the time we didn't know that. And then Strategicon started doing stuff online. GameCrafter did their CrafterCon the same weekend and all this other stuff. And we sort of chose to step back a little bit and let those teams do what they do because they're better at running a convention than we are. We've never done that before. We were just trying to do our best because we felt like the community needed it. Nobody was stepping up, so we tried. And we eventually ended up canceling our con and throwing our support behind some of those other organizations because what we didn't want to happen is, having a situation where there's 7 online conventions happening in the same weekend, and so none of them are as successful as they could be because the handful of people who are at an online convention, they're at one of the 7, and that gets split up. And unfortunately, that's what ended up happening anyway with a lot of these in the beginning. And then, of course, Origins Online imploded. Gen Con Online was okay. But, I mean, you have to remember, a lot of people go to conventions specifically because they want to gather around with their friends and they want to stop staring at screens for a few minutes and everything else. And unfortunately, the digital conventions didn't really scratch that itch for a lot of people. And we didn't really participate as much because we're here to sort of bridge that gap for people who can't afford to get a booth at Gen Con and travel and take a week off of work and get help with the booth and all that other, like you wouldn't think about it. It costs almost $2,000 just to get your stock to the con sometimes. But with an online convention, there was nothing we could have done for people that they couldn't have just as easily done for themselves. And so I didn't feel it was appropriate for us to take people's money to just turn around and do what they could have done on their own. So we kind of helped people set up on their own at the conventions and let them sort of take the lead on that. And it worked out, fairly well. I'm seeing Rob messaging us here. Rob, call me. I'll help. I'll get you. We'll get you all squared away. That what Rob is saying here is that he's been a member for a long time, but he hasn't actually used the benefits of IGA. We actually hear that a lot. A lot of folks they sign up. They Google one day like, where do I go to get help? And IGA comes up among a million other things, and they sign up, and then they sort of forget us in the morning. And we have a bunch of automated emails and stuff to kind of poke people and just be like, hey, just so you know, we're here. Here's the service that we offer. We can help you out. But one of the downsides of being busy is that you don't get to everything you want to do. And, I think one of the most important things that I can tell you is we're here to take some of the weight of all of this off of people. And so while, it's hard to make the time to make that call or to send that email or use our website, you have to remember that it's going to pay for itself, not just in money that you're going to save, but in the fact that there's help available for you. That it doesn't, whatever you're working on right now that you're stressing about doesn't have to be as hard as it is. And there's people IGA has been involved, among all of our members over the course of 7 years, something like $127 million worth of successful Kickstarters. Let us help you. We're here. You're not a bother. That's what we're here for. That's
an incredible statistic too. An incredible number, $127 million. That's huge, right? You have a lot of experience to share for sure.
Yeah, and of course, for every, there's that runs the whole gamut from, Gamelin Games doing their 300,000 every time they do Tiny Epic something, all the way down to, first time creator making 5,000 to do getting $5,000 or $7,000 to do a 500 unit run of their card game. So, it's all in there.
Yeah. So you mentioned that next year there's going to be a lot of interesting new services coming to IGA.
Yes.
And lots of revamps. Anything you could let us know about, sneak peeks, teasers?
So there is one thing that I will tease. So one of the biggest challenges that we've had with our demos is that a lot of the games we were demoing were not necessarily available in distribution. And so what would end up happening is our volunteer goes to the game store, and the volunteer, she's out there teaching the game, gets you all excited about it, and then I'm ready, I love the game, I want to buy it. It's not in the store. So then they say, well, where do I get it? And we say, well, go talk to the retailer, because the volunteers can't possibly keep track of every game out there and which ones are and are not in distribution and with who. So we'll say, well, the store owner can order it for you. So they ask the store owner, and the store owner goes on their distributor site. And if it's there, great, the sale gets made. But if it's not, then we usually have some issues. And oftentimes the person will say, well, we'll order it on Amazon or whatever they do. But then you have issues where, one, sometimes people just forget, they get home and they don't deal with it. And two, even if they do order it on Amazon, that leaves a bad taste in the mouth of the retailer who said, this person came into the store with the intent of spending money in my store, and now they're spending it on Amazon instead. So what we're doing now is we have partnered with Golden Distribution, and we were in the process of signing some more distributor agreements, and then COVID hit, and that all the distributors said, call me after COVID is over. So what we're doing is now anybody who is a member of IGA and supplies us with stock, you turn on a checkbox that says, I want my game to be in distribution, and it just is. It's available in Golden Distribution. That's it. There's no negotiation. There's no, begging them. There's no minimum order. We've worked it out with Golden and with a few other distributors we're talking to have a model where there's no risk for them to carry our members' games. And as a result, there's no reason to turn anybody down. So they just don't. So you want your game to be in distribution, you've only got 100 copies left for your Kickstarter? Cool. Send us some, turn on the checkbox, you're in distribution next week. Done. And now when we go as a demo rep, now we can comfortably tell people if the game's in our store, then we know it's available in Golden Distribution, and the retailer can buy it from there. And that sort of closes that gap that we had and allows us to make sure that every demo we do has a chance to result in a sale that benefits not only the player, but the publisher and the store.
Yeah. So when are these checkboxes going to be available for game designers? Because I know a lot of people hearing this are going to be really excited
about
this.
That checkbox is available right now.
Oh. Got it. Well, everyone listening, if you're not a member of IGA right now, go sign up. And if you are a member, go check that checkbox. Awesome. Well, this was really great to learn about, IGA and what you do and kind of all the new things that are coming up next year. Is there anything that you wanted to leave us all with today before we kind of go off air?
Well, like I said, the biggest thing that I want to convey about IGA, because there's too much to explain in an hour. Like you said, we do a lot of different things, and our motto is generally that if somebody comes to us and says, "Will you help me with this or that?" We'll find a way. We do what we can do to help, and if we don't do a thing, we'll help you find somebody who does. But the important thing to know is that we're here for you. We're here for this community, and we know that this has been a hell of a year, and it's been, not just in terms of, being cooped up and all the reasons that the year just wasn't very much fun, but in the sense that it's been a really rough year for independent businesses. It's been a rough year for IGA. And I know a lot of people are out there trying to figure out where the heck they go from here. What do we do about Kickstarters through all of this? What do we do about conventions through all of this? What do we do about, we have a lot of people right now who have they had a Kickstarter and it failed, and they know they need more marketing, but they're saying, well, how do I go about doing marketing when all the stores are closed and all the conventions are closed, and what do I do? And I want people to know more than anything is that we're here to help you. We're here to provide whatever service we can, whatever advice we can. It isn't a cookie cutter thing. It's not something I can just here's the pearl of wisdom that will solve everything for everybody. It's different for every single person, but you don't have to go through all of this alone. You don't have to figure it out by yourself. This is more than any other industry and any other community that I've been a part of. This is such a team oriented and we all, the whole rising tide lifts all boats community that we've ever seen, that we've ever been a part of. And just to know that there's so much support out here in terms of Facebook groups like the one you're probably found this video on, and in terms of, Discords, in terms of IGA, in terms of, anywhere you go, there's people that are out there to help to make this whole process simpler and more welcoming and more inclusive to you, to your ideas, to realizing what it is you're trying to achieve. And we respect that. We respect we appreciate how many creators have trusted us to be a part of bringing their art to life. That is an awesome responsibility that we don't take lightly, that we are honored to do every single time. And like I said, just we're excited about what's going to happen for us and for hopefully the world in 2021.
Yeah.
And we hope to work with even more folks to help them kind of come out of this with a sort of a rebooted sense of being able to make progress on the stuff that excites them.
Absolutely. Well, that was a great kind of wrap up to this whole video here. And for anyone listening to like the replay of this, if you have any questions, just leave it in the comments section and we'll get Matt back in to answer them for you.
Yeah, I will absolutely follow and answer any questions that come up.
Love it. Oh, thank you so much for your time, Matt. This was really, really informative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, too. Y'all have a great time and a great New Year.
And that wraps up our episode today. If you found what we talked about today helpful in any way, please be sure to leave a review to help others find this podcast. And most importantly, if you're feeling that fire and you're ready to get started on your Kickstarter campaign, be sure to head to the show notes of the podcast. I've linked some of my resources that others have used to successfully launch and get funded. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Board Game Marketing Podcast. For daily tips and advice, find us in the Board Game Marketing group on Facebook. See you next week.